Welcome, everyone, to the podcast. Thank you so much for joining me as always. I am very, a little bit shocked wouldn't be the right word, but like surprised. And I don't have the right word. And the reason why I'm kind of fumbling over what I'm trying to say is I just brought in a download from the energy of Three Eye Atlas. Now, this is not something I expected to do. To be honest, I've kind of sort of stayed on the outside of it because there's so much energy, so much speculation about what it is, what's going on with it, from all kinds of ideas and lots of people bringing in different messages. And I just kind of didn't feel like there was much I could get unless I was able to get it from one of my guides or something like that. Now, the funny thing is this morning I was milling around cleaning the house because the time in which I recorded this, it is the weekend, right? So I was not in work mode and not thinking about work. And all of a sudden, this really big energy came over me, like stronger than I've felt before. And it was very, very heavy in my head. And so I knew it was spirit of some kind right away. And so I was like, okay, I will come tune in. And then it was like, we need you to bring through a message. And I was like, okay. And the energy was so foreign to me that I had to really sort of set my own frequency to get into this. And right away, I was shown that it was the energy of Three Eye Atlas. And they showed themselves, or they showed it to me as, if you can imagine a single candle, okay? Like a single white candle is sort of the shape of it. And at the top of this candle, there was like it was a flame, but it wasn't in motion. So it sort of looked like a candle with a flame. And then there was just brilliant light being radiated from it. Okay, that's what it looked like, although it was not a candle with a flame. Okay, but that's the best description that we have on our planet. And they told me that they were a collected consciousness. And so I said, oh, you mean a collective consciousness? And they said, no, a collected. And the way that I understood that was they are made up of many. So to me, I would think collective consciousness, but they said collected. There's this purposeful, collected nature to them. Now, do I know if if it is like a ship with a bunch of beings inside? I don't know. I wasn't given that answer. It makes me wonder if that is because they said they are collected consciousness. So many different parts making up a whole. But I didn't get an answer on that. What I got was the consciousness of it speaking. So am I speaking to the consciousness of the ship? I don't know either. But to me, it feels like it is a kind of a group collective consciousness, although that's not what they call themselves. And so I want to share with all of you the download that I got from them. And then I also went to the three guides of the light who I speak to and have been channeling for a long time for more information, as they are light consciousness. And the information brought through from Three Eye Atlas was in direct connection to solar consciousness. So that's where we're starting. And so what I invite you all to do is, take this with a grain of salt. See how it resonates for you. If it resonates, that's great. If it doesn't, that's okay. That's what I've been doing, is I've been starting to listen to different things coming up about this whole topic. So really just take what resonates. But I'm going to share with you what I got because the energy was so big, I could not share. So they began by saying they are descendants of the great divine, as are we. And they said they are mutually beneficial organisms to our cosmos. Now, they used different wording that is not how I would speak English. So it was really interesting to kind of unpack it a little bit. But they call themselves, again, these mutually beneficial organisms to our cosmos. They said they are a higher frequency and a different frequency from that of our sun, and that they come from an alternate solar momentum. And I paused when they said that. I was like, well, what do you mean by momentum? And they said, your sun is the heartbeat of all things within your solar system. Each sun is within their own solar system. So every solar system's sun creates like the heartbeat for that whole cosmic interaction, which is really cool, right? It's really neat. So they continue to say, your sun recognizes that we are of a different but coherent frequency. We are like an additive to your sun's frequency. Not only do we radiate conscious frequencies, but we also amplify and upgrade the solar frequencies. This is why the sun is so reactive to our presence. Your sun is also receiving its own version of a genetic upgrade, but on a frequential level. The photonic structure is changing. This does not fit the understandings of physics of your time, but an example would be if a photon was to be imagined to be shaped like a square, that square is now changing shape into a circle. This is a growing pain for the sun, but the sun requires an upgrade as well in order to bypass the oppositional frequencies on your planet, but more specifically in your solar system. So that was a whole lot to take in, right? I was like, okay, so the photonic structure is changing, like the frequency pattern of what a photon is changing. So the light essence is changing, which is really interesting. And I started to wonder, are we going to be able to witness different spectrums of light in this? Are we going to perceive light differently as well? What is it going to do at our light body as well, right? All these questions. So they continue to say, we are not of this universe. We are of a different place, a different time and expression in a universe outside of yours, here to shift. We moved into your galaxy through what you would call a wormhole that connects alternate universes. And when they said this, they showed me this imagery of like sort of on the edge of our galaxy is where I saw it. I couldn't pinpoint where. I don't know the vastness of our galaxy enough to pinpoint where, but it was on the edge, like close to the edge. And they continue to say, your systems are upgrading and energetically bending in ways that are far beyond your understanding. Transfiguration is the correct term. And it's interesting because we keep talking about transformation. We're transforming. And they said, no, you are transfiguring, right? Transfiguration. And so I stopped for a moment to look up the definition of transfiguration. Of course, we know what transfiguration means, but I wanted the words. And it said a complete or dramatic change in form or appearance, often with a sense of becoming more radiant, divine, or spiritually elevated. And that makes sense because they were talking about like the photonic structure is changing as well. So I found that really interesting. They said your galaxy and solar system have been producing an SOS frequency and we have responded. And then they gave me the understanding that they responded like in conjunction with the Galactic Federation, the Earth Alliance, and the various kind of galactic brothers and sisters, systems, all of that are working towards Earth ascension right now. Earth's ascension of humanity is a huge part of it, but there's also this big upgrade happening in our entire solar system. So it's really interesting. We've been thinking just Earth and humans are upgrading, but there's even more that's upgrading. So they have responded. And they said, we create a certain magnetism with our sun as it is too bending in new ways. And they said, do not fear this energy. So I was like, whoa, okay, that's interesting. That's a lot. So then as I felt that energy start to kind of dissipate, I went to my guides, the 3 guides of the light. And I said, can you explain this a little bit further? And they were very quick to show me different images and explain. And so the first thing they showed me was the sun itself. And they showed the toroidal field around the sun. And I actually had to look up if the sun does in fact have a toroidal field. And it does, which, it's pretty cool. So they said it's reconfiguring the toroidal spin based on the energetic field in the sun, but from the inside. So the presence of 3i Atlas is almost sort of like, if we were to picture like an ultrasound, which can get deep into the layers of like muscle and stuff, the magnetism that they were talking about, so it gets deep into the central core of the sun and it is upgrading it from within. And they said that it's an upgrade that the sun has been waiting for. So three guides of the light, being light consciousness, being connected to that of the sun. It's something they've been waiting for. And they compared it to like a rebirth. And then when they said that, they gave me the sensation of like a huge sigh of relief and this feeling of like, oh, finally. And I was like, whoa, that's so interesting, because three guides of the light don't often explain in feelings. It's usually very intellectual. So they continued to say that we expected this integration to play out the rest of the year with various waves. October, November are the most intense, and you will begin to regain your strength come December. And again, they gave me this feeling of like getting a really deep massage, that deep relief when you've had tension and all of that. It's like the sun has been carrying this tension and it's been moving through its solar maximum, right? And it's like it's getting this relief somehow, this changing of the photonic structure, as they explain it, is like giving it this relief finally. And then I said to them, though, I was like, okay, well, that's amazing and fascinating. I was like, but it's so hard here. There are so many people talking right now about how challenging it is physically. I have had many people, from those that are taking some of my classes to dear friends of mine who are deeply connected into the frequencies, even listening to some other people speaking, and myself as well, feeling this energetic pressure, from headaches to nausea to muscle aches, inability to sleep, heightened anxiety. There's so many different ways people are experiencing this. And so I said, I'm like, it's really hard though. And they said, yes, because you are all connected. Everything is connected. All beings are transfiguring. And then they showed me from like grass, trees, animals, all of that, like all beings are transfiguring. Many, though, just don't have as much resistance as humans. Humans actually have a lot of resistance based on ancestral patterning, genetic patterning, traumas, limitations in consciousness, trying to break out of 3D narratives into higher consciousness. Like all of those things create resistance. And so they said, like I said, all beings are transfiguring. And they said, it's not an easy process, but you are farther along than you think. And I was like, okay, that's, kind of nice to know, we're farther along than we think. And if you think about, if you've ever run a marathon or something like that, it's really challenging as you're getting closer to the finish line because you're so depleted. And so that's kind of where it feels like we're at. And then they said that a shift in dynamic is coming. And it felt like, with this change of photonic structure, frequency, it's changing the way the light can interact in our reality. And I don't quite know what that looks like yet or how to define that. And then they finished at the end with saying, prayers for the people in the dark. And I was kind of caught off guard by that. Prayers for the people in the dark. And it gave me the sense of those that are refusing to, open their consciousness, upgrade, heal. And it doesn't mean when I say people upgrading that everybody has to become suddenly on this spiritual path of, meditation. It's not that. It's the awakening of consciousness. It's, healing your limitations, moving beyond, wanting to be better and doing the work to be better. Okay. That's what I mean by it. And oftentimes that does lead people into a spiritual journey and becoming more connected to energies. But you can hear my little cat making noise. For the people in the dark, this is what was really interesting. It was those that are choosing to maintain the energetic process of like, dark deeds, not healing, perpetuating negativity and distortion and all of that. It's like the understanding that I get is that the solar frequency, the solar photonic frequency before was able to be sort of hacked by the opposing energies, darker energies, if you want to say. This new frequency has a different kind of lock and key, which they don't have access to. It requires more of like kind of a pure heart and intention. And then again, when I say that, I don't mean we have to be perfect humans. It just means we have to be willing and wanting to put our best foot forward and do our part to heal and grow, right? That's that pure heart. It's not looking to gain in terms of greed or, pride that blocks you from growth or things like that, right? And so for those of you that are wondering, like, I don't know what I think about this. Am I going to be lost in the dark? Am I going to be lost because I don't have a spiritual practice, or I don't connect in with guides and angels? And, I don't know what I think about it. No, that doesn't mean you're going to be lost by any means. In the moments in which they choose to heal and grow, right? So the feelings of being lost is when we're resisting the growth and change. So if you're feeling like you're resisting something, that might be why you're feeling lost. If you are taking the steps to grow and ascend and awaken your consciousness, this means you're moving in the right direction. No one's going to be lost. It's people choosing the reality they're wishing to live in. So how that ties into everything is with the way the sun is upgrading and we are upgrading. It's creating a new dynamic of how the light and dark interact. And that is something I'm very, very curious to observe and witness as it comes into being, because I don't know what that's going to look like. So I just wanted to share all of this with you for now and, see how it feels for you, see what resonates. I would love to hear in the comments if you have anything to add or understandings and such, because I think truly when we're learning new things and dealing with new things, it's about a collective consciousness bringing the parts together for greater understanding. That's why the sharing of stories is so important. So I wanted to share this with all of you. I hope something in there resonates with you, and I would love to hear what you think as well. So thank you so much, as always, everyone, for joining me. And please do share this with someone if you feel like they may benefit from the understandings. And I look forward to connecting again. So have a beautiful rest of your day, everyone.